There are words that sound very, very similar that are very, very, very different. One of those is trust. I trust you, you trust me. They're legal documents. I have a trust. I have a will. There are trust departments at some banks that are out there. They all sound alike, but they all mean different things. So let's add another one just for the mix. Trust protector. What in the world is that? Do you need one? What is it? And what are the advantages and disadvantages? Join us on Consider This Program. We'll talk about trust protectors today. Good morning and welcome to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
I'm Dean Huddleston.
Happy to have you all along. Thanks for taking the time and being with us today. I know we're going to talk about the difference between a trust and a trust protector. So real quickly, Dean, remind me in this case what a trust is. What's that mean?
A trust is where a grantor puts assets within.
Grantor is the person putting the money in.
He puts assets in a trust for his benefit while he's living and for the benefit of his beneficiaries when he's gone. He appoints a trustee to oversee his wishes during the life of that trust.
So typically, the grantor is also the trustee. Right? The person putting in the assets is typically the trustee, and then there's a successor trustee that takes over when they cannot, right?
Correct.
So that's a trust. It's a legal document. People die, trusts don't, right? Now they do after an extended period of time, but it's like owning a company. A lot of times people get caught up in the name of the trust, and I've had somebody tell me, you can't use that name. Well, just like I can name my company anything I want to name my company, I can name my trust anything I want to. Mine happens to say the Joseph A. Clark dated ... Grantor Revocable Trust. We all have different titles, if you will, but it's no different than naming a company. So if that is a trust, Dean, what in the world is a trust protector? I see this knight in shining armor coming out with a big blade.
You probably would be pretty close to description.
Okay.
All right. So you appoint that trustee, that successor trustee in your trust, to take your wishes from that moment you're gone on. What happens if that trustee does not follow the guidelines of the trust? What happens if that trustee makes some bad investment decisions that would have gone against your desires? What happens if that trustee has an issue with a beneficiary, or a beneficiary has an issue with the trustee and how the trust is being handled? The trustee has total control. Bring in a trust protector, who basically is the watchdog, as I'd say, over the trustee to ensure that your desires, your wishes are being carried through, and has the ability to remove the trustee, to veto investment elections, and a myriad of other powers.
Now, what Dean just did, and this is, I just explained this today. My book should be out in October. And so I explained this today via 401k scenario, right? So the Department of Labor comes up, and if you're not being able to see this, if you're listening to me on the radio or a podcast, but I just made a big circle. I just put my hands together and made a circle, right? By the way, if you want to go to yourlifeafterwork.com, you can actually watch the video of this. That just means you get to see our cute little faces, and every now and then if we put up a slide, you get to see it. I do have a face for radio, so don't expect anything out of the ordinary, just a normal guy. But when you've got this circle, what I call the cookie cutter, like in a 401k, the Department of Labor gives you a cookie cutter. Here's all the things you can do.
Right.
If you've ever made cookies, you'll know that sometimes the dough doesn't take up the entire cookie cutter, right? Every now and then there's a piece missing. It could have been because a child, your spouse, or you took a bite and perhaps it didn't get smeared out all the way that it could.
Okay, I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, I have no doubt, Dean, that I've seen you have that sweet tooth working,
I do.
right?
I do.
It is what it is. But my point being that there are things that happen inside of a 401k that don't happen in every 401k, right? You'll hear on some radio shows you can borrow from a 401k. That is a Department of Labor rule. It's true, but it doesn't mean that it makes it to every plan, right? So the trust protector, what Dean was laying out was examples of what a trust protector can do, right? In the majority of trust, I am listed as, when I'm a trustee, it actually says Financial Enhancement Group as the successor trustee. Right? Now, I'm the one who does that work. I don't divide that out in the firm yet, but it actually is the company name. I am the trust protector of many trusts, and it's actually Joseph A. Clark in this case when we talk about the trust protector. In no instance do I have the ability to fire the trustee. right? That is not something that I want that responsibility for. My job as the trust protector and the ones that I'm in are to be able to help with the financial decisions that need to be made, mostly in a tax basis. So I have the right to do something that's called decanting as the trust protector, where I'm able to take the money from the trust from one state to another state if tax code changes. What
Are states, Joe, are there other states that are more amicable to trust?
Absolutely. They are, and it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. We set up a trust earlier this year in the state of Nevada. You do not have to live in Nevada to have a Nevada trust. What you're wanting is the tax code that the state of Nevada provides, right? If you ever look at a corporation, almost all publicly traded companies are housed, do you know what state?
South Dakota?
No. That's another law, another state that doesn't have a law against perpetuities. Great guess. Delaware. The biggest state in the country, right,
Yeah,
is the housing of most of the because their laws are so in favorable of C corporations, or what we call a regular corporation. Many of them are housed there. The extreme majority, in fact, are based there, have their filings there. And so that's where you have that. So what Dean gave you was the cookie cutter. A trust protector can have the opportunity to do a lot of things. One of the trusts that I'm going to be in charge of as a successor trustee, so it doesn't happen until the grantor is incapacitated, and then the Financial Enhancement Group will take over as successor trustee. In this case, he named all three of his kids as equal trust protectors, where they can replace me if I'm not doing anything, if I'm not doing the correct job. But all three have to unanimously agree. Otherwise, all you're doing is just coming up with a game. They're going to fire whoever's there until they get until they get their wills and wishes, right? But when you have kids who don't necessarily speak at Christmas, let alone the rest of the time of the year, that is a situation to be able to remove a bad apple. And there are bad apples in the world. I mean, let's face it. I've seen some trustees that are problems. So the question then, Dean, to you is, do you need, and by the way, I do want to say this, not all states allow trust protectors. If your trust is more than 5 or 6 years old and you're from Indiana, you weren't even allowed to have a trust protector until that period of time. So if you have a trust that was written in the middle of the 2000s, 2005, 2010, odds are you don't have a trust protector because it wasn't something you could do. Right? It is one of those things that you probably want your trust either updated, amended, or rewritten as things change. I tend to look at my trust very much in detail every 3 to 5 years unless something significant changed. Because of the tax code changes that we've talked about a few weeks ago, I think I don't know if there's 18 months that's gone by where I haven't made a type of change to my trust based on tax code changes that are out there. So these are things we work with our families all the time.
So a question, Joe, the grantor of the trust is the individual that selects the trust protector, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the trustee, the successor trustee in some cases has the ability to replace the trust protector if the trust protector resigns. Most of the time, the trust protector that's stepping down or retiring has the ability to name the next one, or the grantor's actually got a series of people in order, very, very much like they would do a successor trustee.
Okay. And that grantor can also then limit the powers.
Absolutely. They have the cookie cutter, right? So I try to teach people in a trust, there's not a lot that you can't do, right? You need a qualified estate planning attorney who is able to document what you want and needs and tell you, okay, if you do this, you're going to give away this, right? You want to make sure the trust is clear so there's nothing ambiguous in case you have to go to court and somebody has to prove what's in there, right? But pretty much everything that you want to create inside of that trust, you can create in the trust one way or the other, right? You just have to have an attorney who has the capacity and experience to be able to craft the legal message that's behind it. It's why we work with an attorney in Muncie, why we work with attorneys in Anderson, a couple in Lafayette, and several in Indianapolis to do different things because different people have different levels of expertise. This is not a time to knock on your neighbor's door and say, hey, I know you're an attorney. Can you do this? Right? This is,
right.
You want, Reagan to come out in your mind at this point in time. Trust, but verify.
True.
Can
Absolutely.
you do this? Yes. Okay. I'm going to need to see a little experience and proof on this in this regard, right?
Too big of an issue to not.
Yeah, this is not one to miss. So what would be the disadvantage of having a trust protector?
If I was the trustee, I'd feel like somebody's looking over my shoulder.
And they are, and they should.
Yes,
Trust but verify. Did we already say that?
we did.
Yeah, okay.
We
Trust
did.
but verify. Everybody needs to be held to a standard, right?
Absolutely.
And again, the only time the trust protector is looking over your shoulder is if the grantor gave the trust protector opportunities to be able to mess with your life. The majority of time, that is not the case.
Is a trust protector, if there's an issue between the trustee and a beneficiary, is the trust protector more of an intermediary?
Only if that is put into the trust. So when I serve, when the Financial Enhancement Group serves as a trustee, and it's important to understand, it's not Joe Clark, it's Financial Enhancement Group. When FEG serves as the trustee, by definition, it is the financial fiduciary and family friend, right? I cannot be responsible for life and health issues, right? The Financial Enhancement Group is responsible for financial issues, simplifying your accounts, bringing them together, making sure you have the income that you need, making sure that we hire somebody to pay your bills that are taken care of, making sure that your CPA is actually getting the tax return done and on time, right? Making sure that those things are being done. The family friend comes into play to help you so that if you have two kids and there's a disagreement, for instance, on one of those life or health issues, that I can provide my guidance. Not that I'm getting compensated for that, but I can provide my guidance to help break the tie, right? To help say, hey, you two aren't coming to an agreement, based on, again, we'll use the Andy Stanley quotation, based on my past experiences, my current situation and theirs, and our future hopes and dreams, right? What would be wise for us to do at this time, and then try to help them make the answer. Dean, it is not in any way, shape, or form necessarily perfect and without warts, as Loon Shots, one of my new favorite books, says. It's not without warts that you have to work on and get under control, right? To get back into and get back into the right area, if you will. But trust protectors are things that you need to understand. Bottom line, many people have trust. They know what the words say. They know what they told their attorney. But many times the document doesn't best match what it is you're trying to accomplish. That's why we work with competent estate planning attorneys in a collaborative as opposed to a cooperative manner. Cooperation, they do what you tell them. Collaboration, they work with you to come up with the right solution. Hey, go to yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for the Market Carver. Get our weekly newspaper column. More importantly, get signed up for your Next Steps meeting. We look forward to meeting you. 800-928-4001. We'll take a break and be right back.